Rachel, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning, Matt Aunie. How's it going?
It's going.
Doing well. So does this mean you're a senior fellow as well?
I am a senior fellow as well, and as Pepper said last week, a jolly good fellow. You can call me that as well.
You're the senior fellows.
Rachel and Pepper, husband and wife, both senior fellows at the Alabama Policy. And I didn't know if there was a different term for fellow, like Felina. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
The feminine version of the word.
Right. Love it.
All right. So talk to me. So you're witnessing this at the Alabama Board of Education, and it's in regards to, I guess we start here, something that I'm fairly familiar with, the Alabama Accountability Act, which was created a number of years ago to offer scholarships to low-income individuals who wanted to get their kids out of a negative educational situation and into a more positive educational situation. Do I have that about right, Rachel?
That's exactly right. That's right. It started out as just for kids in failing schools, but it's evolved to be more of a school choice program because, these schools will get ratings of F one year, maybe the next year they get a D, but who knows better than the parent whether that school is a bad choice, a bad option for their child. So this is designed so that families who are 100% low income, these aren't, rich kids getting to go to private school. These are low income families who have no other choice. This is giving them a choice.
So when you present it like that, we would all wonder, why is this a bad thing, right? This is a good thing.
Well, yeah, and that's why I think I was so surprised when Alabama Board of Education member Ella Bell, a Democrat from Montgomery, she said in a work session this past Thursday that the tax credit scholarship program that's created by the Alabama Accountability Act was part of a process to, quote, destroy a whole race of people. She also said the state budget is, quote, being cut in so many ways and that it's taking money from poor counties in the state to send kids to private school and that all of this is stealing from the state. And, y'all, that's just not an accurate picture of what's going on. These schools aren't losing money. Their budgets aren't decreasing. They're going up and have been every year.
This was the argument, not this race of people thing. I'm going to set that aside for a second, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But the argument that was made in advance of the Alabama Accountability Act passing was that it would rape schools of their funding, that low income schools that could least afford it would lose money hand over fist, and they would go out of business as a result of these kids flocking to better educational opportunities, which you and I both know, Rachel, just hasn't occurred.
That's right. So, I think when, folks come out, there's been local school boards, Baldwin County, Montgomery County have been passing resolutions to, say, hey, we don't support this anymore. And they'll use these large numbers, which are real numbers. Okay, $30 million is the cap yearly that can go to these scholarships. But that sounds like a huge number. But let's pull back the focus. The Education Trust Fund is it's multi-billion dollars of money. So if you think about it this way, the money that's going to the scholarships is 0.5% of that Education Trust Fund. So really, if you think about it, it's 95.5% of the trust fund is going to business as usual in Alabama. This is a minuscule amount. But if you hear the way Ella Bell described it, if you hear the way these local school boards describe it, it sounds like, these scholarships that are going to low-income families are just taking money and that their budgets are decreasing. Let's just think about Montgomery school system, for example, which, as we all know, they're under state intervention. It's a very sad thing to be zoned for a school in Montgomery County, some of these schools. They've seen their funding increase by more than $8 million, up 5% since 2014. Even at the same time, where their overall student population has decreased by more than 7%. So their money is going up, and the student population is going down. So I think the idea that they're just losing money hand over fist is simply not accurate.
The Alabama Accountability Act is served primarily by two providers. I know that there may be some ancillary providers, but it's primarily two organizations that serve these individuals. Tell me, Rachel, how many of the individuals that are served are minorities?
Right, good point. So, like you said, two of the scholarship granting organizations account for more than 90% of the scholarships. So, Matt, 80%, more than 80% of the people who are the families who are benefiting from these scholarships are minorities, and that's from an AL.com report.
Okay, so over
again,
over 80% of these families who volunteer, want to be a part of the program, apply for the scholarship, get the scholarship. I've talked to these people. Rachel, I know you have too. I mean, they are elated. They weep with joy that they can get out of such a negative educational experience for their children and get them in a more positive environment. These parents cry. They are so elated when they get these scholarship opportunities. And Ella Bell is claiming that this is somehow destroying a race of people.
Right. I mean, she really went on at length. She said it's absolutely horrifying to her. She feels like, as somebody who grew up in Montgomery County 70 years ago, she's seen all the tricks. She feels like this is one of those tricks meant to destroy a whole race of people. And I think that's when, people, Alabamians, we start to get a little tired when good ideas come forward, and then they're put forward that anybody who supports those ideas are somehow trying to hold back other races. It boggles the mind. And in fact, I talked to one mother. She's a disabled veteran, African American. She's in the Montgomery County, school system. She makes use of the scholarship. Took her kids out. She's a single mother. And I asked her, how do you feel when you hear how Ella Bell described this? And she said, I mean, she was stunned. She couldn't even respond. And she just said, this is hurtful. As a mother who very much, really, says I'm a strong African American woman. This is hurtful that somebody would say that this is hurting my kids.
All right. So Ella Bell said these words in a meeting, right? In a session.
Right.
What was the reaction in the room? Did people push back?
Well, I think that she's a long-term public servant. She was able to have, probably 5 minutes of her say on this issue. But when she started to say that, in fact, let me just see if I can remember exactly what she said. Something like that the people in the room, the people on the board, had no idea what it was like for, I think she called it a great white father, to reach out and say, tap, use her words, a little colored child, and say, come, little colored child, I'll send you to the lamp, being a Montgomery school, private school, where I'll send you to the First Avenue. At that point, Mary Scott Hunter, as you could kind of see the looks on the faces in the video. I wasn't there. I was watching it on the video. She just interrupted and said, Madam Chairman, can we please move on? And that definitely upset Ella Bell, who, yelled across the table, shut up, basically. She got very mad at her. But I asked Mary Scott, I said, why did you interrupt? And she said she felt like if she was silent, she was being complicit in the accusation, really, the insinuated accusation that anybody who supports the Alabama Accountability Act is racist.
Let me
she just couldn't do that.
Let me play this portion of the audio. It's a little bit difficult to hear. I'm going to put Rachel on hold so she can potentially hear it. Rachel Bryars is with us with the Alabama Policy Institute, and she uncovered this work session on the part of the Alabama Board of Education in which a sitting member in good standing with the Alabama Board of Education, Ella Bell, Democrat from Montgomery, claimed that a scholarship program designed to help poor and primarily minority young people get out of negative educational situations and through an application process with their parents, get them into a better educational opportunity, that it is a part of an overall effort to destroy a race of people. One would presumably assume that would be African Americans. Let's listen to Ella Bell speak.
It is absolutely horrifying to me because already I'm black and I grew up in Montgomery County around 70 years ago. And I've seen all the tricks. I worked for the state for 30 years. I've seen the tricks that you pay that people play to disenfranchise folk legally. And I suppose I'm at a point now where I'm just too tired and I've gotten too old to sit and read this stuff and say, oh, because it's not an umph anymore. You're still in the process of trying to destroy a whole race of people, and I can't hardly take it. Now, that's my thing. And that's going to be the way I deal for the next 2 years that is in this term, because most of you just don't have a clue of what things are like when you never have a chance, except some great white father taps you and says, come, little colored child, I'll send you to the lamp, or I'll send you to the Forest Avenue.
Madam Chairman,
You understand?
Can we move on? Can we move on?
Girl, shut up talking.
Can we
to me. And
please
you
stop?
are old folk. You ought to shut up.
Miss Bell,
Ms. Bell,
Miss Bell,
What?
Order.
I appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah.
I do. And I believe this budget is a strong budget. The divisors were gonna help make the classroom smaller, just like you said. You wanted smaller amounts of children in the elementary schools. This budget does that. We can discuss this further at the retreat. Ms.
I would
Ziegler,
like
you would
to
put that on the
To,
retreat.
the AAA in particular.
Well,
AAA
and Ms.
also.
Ziegler,
AAA.
You have it down there.
That's Mary Scott Hunter, Ella Bell, and others.
Girl, shut up.
All right, a few more minutes with Rachel Bryars. I appreciate Rachel holding on through the time out there. Rachel is with the Alabama Policy Institute. If you want to read this full story and listen to a portion of this clip, go to alabamapolicy.org, alabamapolicy.org. I guess the simplest way to ask this question is just to ask it, Rachel, and that is, Ella Bell seems without repair in terms of the way that she's viewing this. Hopefully she's in the minority on the Alabama Board of Education. Is there any method by
Support?
which, is there any support of her position here?
I don't know, but I will say, as far as the race piece of that, but I will say that absolutely there are Republicans and Democrats who are saying they do not support Alabama Accountability Act. The AEA, I think, is coming out strong and providing numbers and talking points and rallying local school boards. Hey, this legislation needs to be expanded, but I think people who are advocates are saying, whoa. Now we're going to have to defend what we already have, because this is across the board. Some folks are saying we don't need to do this anymore. And it's only a 5-year-old program. We have to remember this is still young. And I think what Ella Bell did was an unfortunate distraction. There are things to talk about, but I think the plain fact is that the Alabama Accountability Act is a tiny fraction of our state's education budget. It gives low-income families a life-altering choice sometimes. And almost all of the students receiving the scholarships are minorities. So, it comes down to, what do we think education dollars are for? The system or the student?
Well, they are there. People like Ella Bell, whether she even knows it or not, they are there to protect the public education system, not to try to protect the kids. You know this, Rachel. You pointed it out in your piece. They are there to protect the system as it exists, as opposed to doing what is best for young people.
Well, and I think that's why we're going to hear language from people who are against that, using terms like stealing from public schools, taking money from public schools, when really, if you think about the tax dollars going in, what do we all agree that tax dollar is for? It's for the education of a child. It's not for jobs. It's not to protect the school system. It's to help that child get educated. And 100% of the kids who receive these scholarships are low income. They have to apply. They have to do legwork. In fact, with a woman that I spoke with, a mother in Montgomery who sends her kids to a private school, she said, "Hey, I still pay almost $400 a month in tuition." She said, "It's not a freebie. I want my kids to get a great education. The scholarships help me. But for people who want out, we should give them that choice."
Rachel Bryars with us from the Alabama Policy Institute. Go online and read her piece on this unfortunate situation that happened during a work session with the Alabama Board of Education. Rachel, great to catch up with you, and we'll talk again very soon.